Now I think we're in the Wild West of AI coaching. People can think they can write a prompt and call it a coach, but does it really do coaching? People don't know the theoretical side of coaching. They don't really know what informs coaching. And they cross the boundaries of what coaching is and call it AI coaching. It could cause potential harm, and it could also muddy the waters even more of what AI coaching is.
In today's conversation, we're going to explore what it actually takes to build AI coaching on a foundation of real evidence. This is The Edge of Human and AI, a Viva la Coaching podcast. We sit right where coaching meets AI, and we're not afraid to ask the uncomfortable questions. We built this show because the coaching landscape is being reshaped by intelligent systems, and the organizations, leaders, and companies shaping that future deserve honest conversations. I'm your host, Rebecca Rutschman. Each week, we'll help you understand how AI is transforming coaching. We discuss leadership development and human growth across organizations. We will help you navigate the ethical and strategic decisions that come with bringing AI into the coaching space. You'll hear from researchers, innovators, and industry leaders, as well as experts who are reimagining what's possible. Whether you're navigating AI for the first time or already building with it, this is where you belong. Follow us now and join us at vivalacoaching.com. Come stand with us at the edge. We're starting our podcast with a special season from the leading voices of the NYU Coaching and Technology Summit 2026. We will bring you bold, unfiltered conversations at the frontier where coaching meets technology and artificial intelligence. Expect real talk, sharp minds, and unfiltered conversations where we dare to ask the difficult questions. I have a wonderful guest today, Professor Dr. Nicky Terblanche. He's Associate Professor of Leadership Coaching and Research Methodology at Stellenbosch Business School and one of the world's leading researchers in AI coaching. He has spent the last 6 years building and researching AI coaching chatbots from the ground up, long before the rest of the world even believed that this would be a thing. He was just awarded the Anthony Grant Award for Research Excellence by the Institute of Coaching at Harvard Medical School, named after the very researcher who first inspired him to take evidence seriously. We will discover what the data actually shows about AI coaches' work and why some of the findings have genuinely surprised even him. And we'll hear his honest message to every coach who is watching the space with a mix of fascination and fear. Hi, Nicky. It's really great to have you here on the podcast, and I'm really looking forward to this conversation specifically.
Great. Thanks. Yeah, nice to be here. Always nice to talk to you and to talk about AI coaching, both our passions.
What would you want our listeners to know, for those that haven't maybe heard of you yet, there might be some of them out there or just know very little of your work in that space of coaching and AI?
Yeah, so maybe just briefly, I'm originally an electronic and software engineer, worked in that space for many years, then became a coach, then became an academic. And I think now I'm combining the three worlds actually, of software engineering, research, and coaching. And I'm as a full-time academic at the moment at Stellenbosch University. I am embedded, entrenched almost in a research focus of artificial intelligence coaching. So that's what I've been doing for the last 6-7 years. I build chatbots. I collaborate with other people who build AI coaching chatbots, but also AI in coaching, which, as we know, is broader than just AI coaching. Mm-hmm. And we do various research experiments. We want to try and understand what is it in this fast-moving world of AI that we can with more certainty know about through research. Because there's a lot of hype, a lot of speculation, and my philosophy in life is that through research, we are able to at least narrow down our claims and have empirical evidence for what we know and what we don't know.
And you always also mention that it's so important that you have very good foundations as well in coaching theory, in psychology theory, and all that when you work in that field. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so when I joined coaching many years ago, 2009, I was a bit shocked to see how little scientific evidence there was for coaching and that anyone could call themselves a coach, that really a lot of claims were unsubstantiated. Back then, I discovered the work of Anthony Grant, the late Anthony Grant, who was a professor at Sydney University, and he was one of the first pioneers in the field of research in coaching, and really inspired me as well to form an evidence base. So back then, I did research in human coaching, if we can call it that now, because I really do believe, in coaching as a profession, we've come a long way. We've got lots of evidence now. We have meta studies and systemic reviews that show coaching really works. It gives me comfort then, and I use that in my sales pitch to my clients and in organizations to say, look, here's the science, here's the evidence, it works. And I think the same now we should be doing for AI coaching, because in the presentations I do, I show a slide where I look at the number of papers published, research papers published on AI coaching, and we are less. There's a 1 or 200, maybe 300 papers. It's probably generous to call it that, versus thousands of papers in the human coaching side. So we have a long way to go. But I do believe the foundation and the evidence base is what we need, both for the human coaching profession and for AI.
And you've been recently in Boston at the IOC Conference, awarded the Anthony Grant Award. And I know that this is very special for you because you have always had Anthony Grant as one of your role models. How did that feel for you, being awarded that?
That was wonderful. Actually, it's behind me. I don't know if you can see, but the award is there behind me on my shelf. It was incredible because, first of all, to be awarded, to be given an award in research is very special because research is a lonely, long journey. You spend sometimes a year, 2 years to get one paper published. And then it's tough, and there's lots of surprises along the way. And people don't always value research. Practitioners want to get on with stuff. They want to make money. They want to help people. The researchers are the people sitting in the dark corner trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work. So that's already amazing, that to be recognized for research. That's incredible. And then for the award to be called the Anthony Grant Award is just, the cherry on top, icing on the cake, because it also acknowledges the work that Anthony's done before he sadly passed away, in embedding a culture of research in some of us. And I feel in a sense that I'm carrying on his philosophy and his spirit of research. So a very special moment there in Boston to receive the award. I really very much appreciate it.
And congratulations to that again. It's amazing. I mean, you're the pioneer of AI and coaching research, at least for all of us out there. So it's really good to see you finally getting awarded for the great work that you've been doing in the field.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. It's almost a bit accidental. I started doing research in 2019, 2020 in coaching, when AI coaching, where no one was talking about it and where it wasn't a big thing. And I wonder if it would have become a big thing if it wasn't for generative AI that hit us like a tsunami in November of 2022, because then suddenly people became interested, because AI wasn't very powerful back then, and now it's become powerful. So I think in a sense, my timing was fortunate in that I was involved in AI research before the wave hit. And that's probably the trajectory that we are on now.
Yeah, I mean, 2022 has been a big year for AI, and definitely for the future of using AI also for coaching. Yeah.
Yeah, massive.
And while you've been building this for years, I mean, you started pre-ChatGPT with all this. What's one finding from the last 6 months now that has genuinely shifted something for you?
Yeah, there's been lots of surprises along the way, but the last 6 months, I would say, were 2 studies. The one study was that you were involved in as well, Rebecca, was the study of the 3 different coaching approaches that we tested. So we looked at grow versus solution focus versus CBT. And what we did was we created 3 different chatbots. You were the ones who created the prompts. And we had 3 instances, in other words, 3 AI coaching chatbots that could coach in those 3 different styles. And we had a large sample of about 600 people, and we tested it out we did an experiment to compare over 2 coaching sessions We measured technology adoption, working alliance, goal attainment, and we hypothesized that either the grow or the solution-focused chatbot would score highest on those measures, just because it's easier to use and it's more future-focused. And then, as you know, we had this massive surprise where the CBT chatbot won all the awards. it outperformed the other two. And to me, there's a paper. The paper has been published. It's open access in the journal Coaching International Journal of Theory, Research and Practice, so people can find it there. And to me, the big bottom line was just that AI can do more advanced coaching than we thought it would, and people actually like that. They prefer to go and maybe in a deeper and more complex and space with AI than what we thought. What makes that also interesting is that it's different to what current research tells us about human coaching approaches. The best studies we have at the moment shows that there is no difference between different human coaching approaches in terms of the outcome. It's a surprising finding. I still think we haven't done enough research on that, but that's how it currently stands. And that tells us that what works in human coaching, we cannot all of that transfer all of that directly into AI coaching. My initial premise was back in 2020 when I created the Designing AI Coaching framework that let's start with what works in human coaching and let's make that the basis of AI coaching. Now the research is showing me that we can't make those blanket assumptions. Some things are unique to AI coaching. We're not sure everything what yet, but we have to be aware of it. Because that was the second surprising finding, is we built another 2 chatbots, an experiment where we had a directive approach in coaching versus a non-directive approach in AI coaching. So 2 chatbots, both using the GROW model. The one gave a few suggestions in through the GROW process, more directive. The other one only asked questions. This was with a student of mine, Andrew Brown. The directive chatbot, basically, it wasn't as clear-cut. There was only a few aspects. They were mostly equal. We have evidence to show that people prefer a slightly more directive approach in AI coaching, which is a bit disappointing, I guess, or surprising, because in pure human coaching, we always say you should be completely non-directive. Don't give advice, although we actually know that that's not the case. That's not the way our human coaches actually coach, which places a question mark on some of the competency models and frameworks that currently is out there. But in AI coaching now, we know it's better to add a bit of directiveness. How much, we're not sure yet.
And where in the process?
Exactly.
No? Like that's also going to be the thing that we need to investigate a little bit more. And where will it be helpful in the coaching process with AI coaches, and where not?
Because it could be in the beginning you really want to just build rapport and just get the scene set, and then maybe later on. So yeah, the point here is the more answers we get, the more questions it creates. So it keeps me busy in terms of research.
But that's a nice thing, no? Like we keep on finding like more answers, but then we have even more questions, that result from that. So you have a great job. You'll never run out of questions to answer, no? In the end. And I know you've been working really early already on creating this framework for building AI coaches, and designing great AI coaching experience is really an art, as we both know. What does the evidence tell us about what actually makes an AI coach effective versus what we assume?
I wish I could give you a definite answer, but there isn't at this stage. I think we have some hints around it. Look, we also have to not think that we have to invent the wheel completely ourselves from scratch. A lot has been done in therapy with AI chatbots. And there's general chatbot theory and things like anthropomorphism and human-computer interface. A lot has been done. So we can apply those principles, and it is about a certain level of human likeness. If it's too little, then people just see it as a non-human-like interface. The interesting thing is if you add a little bit of humanness, giving it a name or giving it a human kind of tone, something kicks in which is described by the theory called computers are social actors, CASA, C-A-S-A, which says that if something reminds you in a slight way of being human, it triggers neural pathways in your head that you start treating it as a human. So there must be a little bit of humanness, not too much, because then we have the uncanny valley where we have an emotional disconnect. Then another interesting thing is that if we look at the working alliance, which is a measure used in therapy, which consists of the bond, goal, and task clarity of a relationship. So it says For coaching to be successful, you need a strong working alliance. And for a working alliance means a strong bond between coach and client, clarity on the tasks to be done, and clarity on the goals that have to be achieved. I've done several studies using the working alliance with AI coaching. And in all of those studies, it actually shows very clearly that the bond is not important. For coaching to be successful, people don't need to form a bond with the chatbot. Chatbot, the most important thing, I did a structure equation modeling, which I still have to write up. The most important thing is the task clarity and then goal clarity. So it also seems that even though there must be a human likeness, so the conversation feels a bit more authentic, you don't have to have a deep social emotional bond with a chatbot. It must help you with the task and the goals. Having said that, though, other studies have shown that some people, not everyone, some people form a real bond with these chatbots.
Yes.
And they talk of psychological safety, and they even say that they prefer the AI coaching chatbots to human coaching because they feel unjudged. So again, lots of questions and not all the answers.
Maybe it also shows how different people are also in wanting to use it, in certain ways, in different, like for different things as well. And we're all different, also using technologies like that.
And that's an interesting point. We've done not many, 2 or 3 studies where we use the big 5 personality type as a moderator in understanding what people like and don't like about AI coaching. And this last study with directive and non-directive coaching, we used the big 5. And I must now, off the top of my head, try and remember, but I think something like extroversion was a clear moderator for performance expectation on the chatbot. And the more extroverted people are, the more they thought the directive bot would help them to perform better. So if you are more introverted, then it doesn't really matter which type of chatbot you use, directive or non-directive. But the more extroverted you become, the more important the directiveness of the chatbot is. And there were a few other moderators as well, which is in the paper, which will hopefully be published soon. So to your point, ultimately, I think the wonderful thing, and that's another thing I'm thinking of, is how do we create chatbots that can adapt to the personality type of the individual? Because then we can get really optimal performance. But that's a long road to go still. First of all, to understand what personality types need what, and then in the conversation for the chatbot to try and sense what your personality type is.
Yeah. Trying to identify it in one way or the other, and what do you do when it's wrong? So there's a lot of other things involved in that. But it would be great if, it would then be able to cater to your needs much more further on.
In fact, one of my PhD students, the one who did the directive and non-directive, his current topic that we're considering is exactly in this field. So there might be some interesting findings coming out.
So we see there's a lot still coming out.
Oh, yes.
I have one question that keeps me sometimes also up a little bit. Is like everyone now can really, or think they can create an AI coach easily in one of the tools that are out there available just through prompting. And where do you think the current risk lies with that?
Yeah. Sure. On the one hand, you don't want to discourage people. You want everyone to play around and do things. But I almost think we are back. And I always refer to this, the Wild West of coaching, that paper in 2004, where human coaching was 20 years ago, where everyone called themselves a coach. And that caused real damage to our profession. Now I think we're in the Wild West of AI coaching. People can think they can write a prompt and call it a coach, but does it really do coaching? What does it do? If it books an appointment in your calendar, for example, or it gives you training information, or it mentors you, is it still coaching? So do we have to be precious about what the word AI coaching means, or should we just let it go? But at some point you have to delineate it. And I think the danger is that if people don't know the theoretical side of coaching, if they don't really know what informs coaching, and they cross the boundaries of what coaching is and call it AI coaching, I don't think it can cause harm necessarily. The LLMs are pretty robust these days, by with its own guardrails, but it could cause potential harm, and it could also muddy the waters even more of what AI coaching is. Now, there's 2 points to this. If you look at complexity theory, for example, in a chaotic situation or in a setup where there's lots of variables and lots of nonlinear relationships between things, one of the approaches is to say, just don't put boundaries around this. Let this thing run and, let it find its own stability. And maybe for now it's okay for us all to go off and build stuff and call it coaching. Perhaps as we mature, we will find a place where we say, no, this is actually what we mean by it, and this is what it should look like. I'm of the opinion we need that. Ultimately, we need to put boundaries around this thing to make it really productive, because otherwise you can't study everything. At least if you put a boundary around something, you can call it something, you can study it, you can do research, and you can tell the world, this is what I know about this piece of it. So if you use this piece of the puzzle, I can tell you that this is what you're going to get. But if you go out there and you do the other stuff, you use the other stuff that hasn't been researched, sorry, I don't know what's going to happen.
What would you like to see happen now that we're moving forward with this?
It's good that we have lots of debate and discussion about this. Maybe it's because I go to these conferences only, but I don't know. I hope more people out there have discussions about AI coaching, AI in coaching as well. I'm talking very much now about AI coaching, but there's the use of AI in many other aspects of coaching. I would like to see the coaching bodies get even more involved, put draft guidelines out there, educate their members. I think they need to get more involved than what they are doing at the moment. I would like to see large coaching companies who have AI coaching products to be more transparent about what they're doing. I know it's commercial and I know that there's money involved, but we're building a new industry. And I think everyone can benefit if people are more open about what they have found in their own private research settings and what they're busy doing with. That's what I want industries to see. I think coach training providers, people that train coaches, should include AI in their curriculum as a standard, even if it's just a short little module, but just to make people aware. In our Masters in Coaching last week, or earlier this week, I did a lecture on technology in coaching and AI in coaching, just to share with what I found in my research. And the students really valued it. They're new into coaching, but putting that up front right in the beginning really helped them to think about it critically. And then lastly, I think we need funding. Of course, I would always ask for funding. We need money to be made available to researchers so that we can go and do serious studies and understand what this phenomenon is and how we can use it.
And hopefully at some point get to the level where coaching is now, with a lot more research backing what's really effective in coaching as well.
It'll take many years. And of course, the challenge is that AI changes so fast that findings from 2 years ago, when I used scripted chatbots, now we have to redo. So it is an ongoing process.
I would like to ask you, because it's always difficult to ask people about that topic, but I know that you're a little bit more independent from, let's say, the corporate world. Avatar use. There's a lot happening out there now around coaches, companies, just like creating human-like avatars. And quite often, the thing about, use this, or like build your avatar, like a copy of you, and then send that out to your clients. And there's a lot involved in this topic of avatars. What are your thoughts around this?
It's something I really would love to research. I'm hoping to find funding, and maybe a student wants to do a PhD on it, because I think it's, again, we can borrow a lot from what we know from other fields. Yeah. We're not the first people to use it, but in coaching specifically, I think it could be very exciting. I think also it could be distracting. So I think some people will like it, some people won't like it. Some people will find it eerie and uncanny valley-ish to have talked to an avatar. Other people might just find that it's more human. I'm just thinking of studies we did before. We did a study on text versus voice chatbots, the GROW model, and then one was only text, one was only voice. And again, there were surprising findings. Introverts, for example, prefer to talk to the voice chatbot instead of typing, which surprised us. So maybe with an avatar, you get some personality types who just would love it. And others might just completely. Another study I did, your own prior was where we added images to two chatbots. We had a text-based chatbot, and then we added images to the same chatbot. And we measured people's levels of imagination and verbal awareness, something around that. And if I remember correctly, people with a high imagination who were image aware got irritated by the fact that there were images in the chat.
Because there was maybe a disconnect.
Exactly. And people that were high on the verbal side, on the text side, verbal side, got irritated with if there were spelling mistakes or if the language wasn't proper. So it's a long answer. I always try and bring it back to the research that I do know. I think avatars might have a place. I think some people will love it. Some people won't like it. we need to research it more. I don't have a definitive yes or no.
Yeah, I think it's a super interesting field. I mean, like, I have very strong feelings myself around it, and there's research that I could find that is pro, but mainly when you use your own avatar talking to yourself for self-reflection. There's some really interesting research papers on that, and how much it can maybe even support your reflection of listening or talking then to yourself around that. Right. I found that very interesting. And then on the other side, there's some interesting papers that are very critical around it as well, and that had findings of people, like you said before, the uncanny valley, finding kind of a disconnect, reflecting it then back to the person that the AI tries to mirror if it's not themselves. There's a lot out there, but there's, again, more questions than answers because we don't have anything for coaching. Yeah.
Maybe if I create a 20-year-old version of myself, I'd love talking to you, or not.
Yeah, for a role play. Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting field. One thing, and I know it's one of the topics that have been always very dear to you as well, is that we met, some people also at the IOC conference and also from Africa, that it really showed that AI coaching is actually showing up in very surprising places for us, like young entrepreneurs, graduate employees that are starting to build something with AI. So what does it look like for you when you look at this and how it works? Does it now give access to it for more people, what you were always hoping for?
Yeah, this is one of the amazing potentials I see for AI coaching. I'm from South Africa, and I'm always amazed to see when I travel to Europe or America, the contrast in socioeconomic conditions of people. The one statistic I remember was that the per capita GDP of North America or USA, I think, was $70,000, $70,000 or $80,000 per person, right, per capita. Sub-Sahara Africa is less than $3,000. So it's massive, the difference. And we know that coaching is very powerful. We have science to show that it works, it helps people. As a coach, I have coached many people, coaches around there, they know the effect. But many people will never have access to it. So I think in developing countries or poorer countries like on the African continent, I think this could be incredible. I was actually telling someone the other day, even if you look at the cost of an AI coach, let's say an AI coach can do only 10% of what a human coach can do. And I suspect it's more in terms of efficacy, 20%. And if you could give it at a fraction of the cost, at a 5% cost of what a human coach costs, I mean, that is just incredible. And governments could even make it available for free. So I see incredible potential. Also, remember, Africa is it's the youngest continent in the world. I don't have exact percentages, but most of the population are under 30, under 20, whereas Europe and America, Asia is an aging population. So we've got all these young people, open-minded, open for input and keen to learn. Imagine we let AI coaching, we give them access to that. It's phenomenal. And that is what actually excites me the most, is the potential of this to help masses of people.
And that some of those younger people can actually create that now and then make it available for others in the country. You just got me there a little bit with Africa is the youngest continent. And I'm like, I'm just reading Sapiens, It's like everything comes from Africa. It's the oldest culture. So when it comes back to humankind.
Isn't it beautifully ironic, or ironic's the wrong word, but it's the oldest continent from humanity, but now also has the youngest population. That's actually a beautiful cycle now that I think of it.
Yes, it's lovely. Maybe now something else is coming out there, and we just have to wait and see it emerge and evolve. There's one thing that we've been discussing for a while now, and comparing human and AI when it comes to coaching. What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, so of course, when you have a new technology that mimics what a human do, the natural thing is to try and understand how does it compare to the human. And this was one of the first studies we did back in 2021, was published in 2022, where we compared an AI chatbot coach with human coaches. And we found that the AI coach there were 4 measures, goal attainment, resilience, well-being, and another one. The AI coach was only able to help people with goal attainment. It couldn't help them with the rest, whereas the human coaches could help people with everything. And when we compared the goal attainment between human and AI coach, we saw that the AI coach was almost as effective and eventually as effective. So that was really incredible to realize. There were obviously some limitations to the study. It was a student population, and it was replication study. It wasn't run at the same time. And there are very few studies like that, but there's some evidence that in some cases AI coaching can be as effective as a human coach. Although a very recent study with Eric Dehaan and Ken Nowak we did over a shorter period showed that the human coaching far outperformed the AI coach. This was for senior managers, and there were some limitations or some reasons for explaining that, is that when people know that they don't get a certain intervention in a randomized control trial, they might already be negatively tuned and so on, when people can read the paper. From those studies, I think it's asking the wrong question, and I think we're wasting our time to try and understand if AI coaching is better or similar to human coaching. I think we've got some kind of evidence that for some very structured things, it can be as good. For other things, it's just not there at all at the moment. We both build chatbots, and even if you build a cutting-edge chatbot and you use it and you see it in action and you compare it to what a human coach does, it's nowhere close to that. So the next frontier, and that's what I'm also maybe moving my research into now, is the hybrid approach. A few days ago, we published a conceptual paper, me with Rajashi Ghosh from Columbia University, a conceptual paper on hybrid intelligence. And later in the year, we'll kick off a research project as well, where we compare human coaching with human coaching plus AI. I think that's what we need to focus on next. Where in the human coaching process, what should that chatbot look like? What is the improvement then? That is what I think for now. Until AI dramatically increases, until we get, of course, general artificial intelligence, which some people claim is only a few years away. I've heard predictions of 2 years from now, another prediction 2030. I believe we're much, much further away than that. But in theory, if we get artificial general intelligence, then it can do anything a human can do, and then it can replace human coaches or do similar things to human coaches. But for now, I think we need to look at the hybrid intelligence.
Yeah, I also quite often think that this is not what we should actually do. Like we discussed on our panel lately, that AI is something adjacent, and we need to look at it differently and maybe focus on the parts that AI now, with some of the papers we have out there, we know can't do, and then focus our human side on that, while we think that maybe AI will do something different in the game.
Look, I still want to say that, so now coaches don't, from a coaching perspective, we don't want to hear that there's going to be coaches that do things on their own. We always want to think that there's going to be human involved. And there's part of that. But remember now the previous point we just made about Africa and poorer communities. I still think it's worth developing the best standalone AI coaches that we can build that doesn't need human intervention, because otherwise we can't scale coaching. If there always has to be a human coach involved, we're not scaling it. So I think even though the standalone AI coaches at the moment is not nearly as good as a human coach, we need to focus on that. And then the other focus should be for human coaches. How do we make them more effective with the support from AI?
Because it will always be better than no coach. So no matter what it is.
Hopefully, but yes.
Because, the coaching profession is really nervous currently about AI. What do you wish coaches understood about what your research actually shows, but also on where it's headed in the future?
I think coaches should wish they understood that AI is actually not as amazing as we think it is. I think it's hyped at the moment. And if you look at the history of AI as a subject, there's been 2 AI winters. It started in the 1940s, AI, and there were 2 slumps in the 60s and again in the beginning of the 90s, where AI was completely out of fashion because it just didn't deliver what people thought it would deliver. And I'm really concerned when I look at the media and the news headlines. Our companies are pouring trillions of dollars, I think, into AI. They really think it's the next big thing. For that to work, they do hype it. So I think coaches should get really into the reading up about AI, following the news, but not just the popular news. You also have to find your sources that you can trust. They'll be less worried if they realize AI is not as incredible as I think it is. I think they should also understand that coaching is a very incredibly complex craft or art or whatever you want to call it, practice. And that for any machine to mimic that is really, really difficult. And then I always advise coaches also to up their game in terms of their knowledge of coaching. We offer a master's degree where there's a research component, there's a strong foundation, a theoretical component. And I feel that our coaches, when they walk out of our master's program after 2 years, they can master new knowledge in the moment when they coach someone. They can pull on many different resources they've learned. So I think the day of a 3-month course, call yourself a coach, those days are over, because AI can certainly do some of those things. Coaches should educate themselves about AI. They should stop worrying about it. It'll take away their jobs. I think we're not close to that, but they have to also up their game in terms of theory and knowledge. And I guess I'm a very cognitive person, but there's also obviously the emotional and human side to show up as a human for the other person, because an AI cannot do that. So to bring that dimension is what will set us apart for a long time.
Thank you. I think that's very important for people to hear.
Yeah.
You're heading, like me, to the NYU Coaching and Technology Summit in June. I'm very excited about seeing you there again. What conversations are you hoping that people at the summit would finally start talking about?
As I said, it would be great for some of these large technology companies who are spending so much money to share more openly what they are actually finding. So less marketing hype. As a researcher and academic, I always find that quite annoying. I understand it's necessary, but to share more openly about what we know as a collective, as an industry. I also hope that there can be critical discussions, that it's not all amazing and rah-rah, that there are things that we're not doing right, and that we can critique each other. I would like to be critiqued as a researcher for maybe the quality of my research designs or why I'm not investigating certain things. And maybe we can critique the coaching bodies for the progress and the pace that they're doing. And we can critique the big, large companies for what they're doing in this space. I just think, in academic conferences, it's a very critical space. And you go out by trying to see where the flaws are, where the limitations are, in order to help the research to improve. So I hope we can have critical discussions and uncomfortable discussions, and not just all lovely, it's a great space.
So this is an invitation for people to think about the critical questions, come over and just ask them.
Ask uncomfortable questions. And I hope there's enough space for Q&A as well, that it's not just one-sided information.
I mean, as a researcher, you're used to being critiqued.
All the time.
So finally being awarded must have been very soothing. Is there anything you have not shared yet that you would love to share with our listeners?
I think it's wonderful that the conversation of AI coaching is happening. I feel we need more researchers. Maybe I can end off with this, that we need more serious research in terms of not just AI coaching, but human coaching. And it would be wonderful to see, especially in America, that there are more universities that offer degree programs, master's and PhD degrees. There's quite a few in the UK. We've got 2 in Africa. I would like that to be taken more seriously by education institutions, because as soon as coaching can be seen as a master's and PhD level study, money will be put for it and research can be done. And hopefully in my lifetime, I will see that as a accepted and acknowledged academic discipline.
Thank you. I think with that, we're complete for today's session. I'm really looking forward to seeing you in New York. And thank you so much for the interview.
Thank you for the stimulating questions.
What stays with me from this conversation is something he said almost in passing, that the more answers his research gives him, the more questions it creates. And that, to me, is exactly the right orientation for anyone working at the edge of human and AI. Not certainty, but curiosity. He said something near the end that I haven't been able to let go. He said in his lifetime, he hopes to see coaching become an accepted, acknowledged academic discipline, like psychology did, like medicine did, a field that had to fight for its rigor, its research, its rights to be taken seriously. And then he said, the coaches who will matter in this next chapter are the ones who go deeper into the theory, into the evidence, into what it actually means to help another human being change. So the question I want to leave you with, are you treating your craft with the seriousness the field is asking for right now? That's it for today's episode of The Edge of Human and AI, a Viva la Coaching podcast. If this conversation opens something up for you, the best thing you can do is share it. Send it to a colleague, a client, a fellow coach, anyone who's asking the same questions you are. The more of us standing at this edge, the better the conversation gets. Follow us on your favorite podcast app so you never miss an episode. And come find us at vivalacoaching.com, where you'll find resources, community, and conversations you won't find anywhere else. We'll be back next week with another voice from the edge. Until then, come stand with us at the edge.